Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about technical SEO, how you can optimize your website to get traffic, results, to avoid some technical errors and many other things. I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Nik Ranger. How are you?
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Antoine. It's great to be here.
Nice. I check out your profile. You have extended experience about this topic. Before we start, uh, tell more about yourself, background, experience, and I'm interested more why you decided to pay attention with technical SEO. Because in most cases, I often see men who pay attention with this topic, but it's a big pleasure that women can do technical SEO as well. Can you tell more about experience and about this topic?
Yeah, awesome. So hi everyone, my name is Nik Ranger. I'm a senior technical SEO. I am currently head of the SEO Collective, which is a non-profit SEO and educational organization here in Australia. It's run by myself and a couple others because we think that really good advice shouldn't come with a paywall. And we just want to be there as a really good, solid educational resource. So we do monthly meetups and that. I'm also the co-contributor of 2 books for Majestic and for Search Engine Journal. um,
Nice.
the brand ambassador for Nik Ranger, and was with Studio Hawk. We were the winner of the best with SEMrush, the best agency in Australia, APAC, and the globe.
I Yeah, love it. And it's interesting that we have a sponsor Ishraf today, and you
Yeah.
mentioned two competitors, Majestic and SEMrush. What do you think about Ishraf? Do you like this tool?
I think both of the tools are really good for whatever for different reasons. I
Mhm.
personally really love to use Ahrefs because oh my gosh, they've got so many great tools. They've got a much more richer database for links, especially historical links, and I find them to be a lot more useful when it comes to site migrations, just for a bunch of different reasons. One of them that comes to mind is their best pages by links, and you can sort that by 404s, and especially with doing forensic work post migration, that tool is incredibly helpful.
Nice. Love it. Okay, let's talk about technical optimization.
Mhm.
I often see when webmasters ask me, please, can you help me to fix technical errors? I want to get a green line with page speed insights. Do you think is it good idea to pay attention with that? Because I often check out the top 10 results. I can see websites that have red line and they get traffic sales a lot
Yeah.
and they don't care a lot about that. And what do you think about chasing this green line, or we have other issues that we need to provide with technical optimization?
Yeah. Well, I might talk a little bit more about the philosophy, rather than just talking about technical SEO, because from my perspective, SEO is technical,
Hmm.
and I think I just advertise myself as a technical SEO because I think that sort of says really quickly and communicates really quickly that I'm not just here to look at like doing title tags, creating content, and doing backlinks. Um, the way that I approach SEO is a little bit more holistically. If
Hmm.
you can't crawl something, you might not be able to index that thing, and you certainly cannot rank. And I think the the way that we really need to see SEO needs to evolve. I think traditionally, people when they think of SEO, they thought of keyword research, title tags, meta descriptions, heading tags, creating blog content, backlink outreach. And even through that, I think a lot of the thoughts around just even how search engines work is they crawl the internet and find out all the pages and what they mean, and how they should be ranked.
Hmm.
That's old thinking. New thinking. New thinking is around strings, not things.
Hmm.
And I stole that strings, not things from Dixon Jones's amazing book, Semantic
Hmm.
SEO. So an SEO's role is so much more rich and diverse. And I've even done a graphic on this, which I'm more than happy to tweet out later. But it really, really starts to encompass like a whole range of different roles. So it's really, really important that that's really well understood right at the get-go. But technical SEO is fundamental. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, what do you think? Is it a good idea to start fixing technical errors before creating content? I mean, for example, if we have some generic pages, and I found that when we submit new ones, I don't know how these technical errors appeal, but after creating new pages, we get a bunch of new technical errors. Can you find or explain how these technical errors appeal, and what do we need to do to create pages and then fix, or we can fix all pages and create new ones? What do you think about that?
Yeah, totally. So, even before we think about creating new pages, if you're not able, if bots aren't able to crawl, they're certainly not index, and it doesn't matter how many new pages that you put on your site, it probably won't even get picked up correctly. And this is something that I've seen with a lot of sites, particularly larger ones that have a bunch of these technical issues. So as a bit of a practical advice, keep on top of your errors, and just really understand what's happening with your crawlability on your site. So I always say to start looking at Search Console. Google provides wonderful free tools, and we should use and exploit them as much as we can. And Search Console is a wonderful way that we can be able to do that, because that's really our first interface of interacting with Google. So start there. Now, there's so many different tools and functions within Search Console. You've got your performance tab, which can see, just how all of your URLs are kind of generally going. You've got your coverage tab, which shows, how much they've been able to crawl and how much they've been able to index and what's happening with errors at scale. So have a look in there first. And if there's any errors, I do think it's really, really important to start addressing those first. Then you've got your enhancements page, and then you've got your crawl stats and a bunch of other different ones. But one thing that I really do encourage people to look at is actually the crawl stats. So that will actually show you how much the bots are being able to crawl your site, and by what percentage of response. So, for example, I had a client that's had a pretty bad migration. And so I will talk about migrations a lot, because they are one of the riskiest things you can do in SEO, where 84% of all the pages that Googlebot crawled was registered as a 404. Now, this is a massive, massive e-commerce website that generates millions of dollars here in Australia. And for them to realize that 84% of everything that Googlebot crawled was actually a 404 was crazy.
Yeah, a lot.
So obviously they had a really bad migration. So it was kind of like my job and my team's job to go through and forensically go through and find as much of these errors as possible. So what we did with that, we used the API. So, we were able to detect whether Google encountered server problems or crawling their site using the URL inspection API, which is a really, really nice new feature. Search Console rolled out this in January of this year, so thank you very much. But use Analytics Edge, or use SEO tools for Excel, or use some way to be able to bring this in. Screaming Frog's also got a tremendous API as well, where you can kind of get an overview of all the pages that you have, and even just check whether they're on Google. We can check the HTTP status, we can check those things, but with specifically this URL inspection API, you can actually check whether it is or isn't on Google. And that's a really, really great way to be able to have a look at things. In Ahrefs, you can be able to use this tool to crawl and have a look at your site. I also like to use Ahrefs in conjunction with Screaming Frog. and also do crawl comparisons in there as well. So you can kind of get a good sense of, like, again, all of your pages, what is crawled and what isn't crawled. So again, I think what I'm trying to say from a technical perspective is be thorough, but have a really, really good understanding of how the bot interacts with your site and how successful it is for search.
Nice, nice. Well explained. Okay, let's compare existing tools. For example, if I check out backlinks, I'm using Ishraf. I don't use Google Search Console because I get more backlinks, much better metrics that I need to consider. But what about if we compare Google Search Console versus, I don't know, like Screaming Frog or Ahrefs or SEMrush, Majestic, any other tools that provide technical errors? Where to start from your experience? It's better to fix errors that we have on Google Search Console or on Screaming Frog, because I often see when the masters are trying to cover both, and sometimes it's not good idea, because when you fix some errors, you can get other errors on other tools. What do you think about that?
Well, I think if you're doing fixes, but you're seeing accumulation of new errors, I mean, it's all very contextual, right? Like the way that I try and approach, technical SEO is that we really need to work together with the developer. Like often developers are the, they're the mechanics underneath the hood that, have to go in and be able to fix it. And a lot of the times, and I think this is really important for people to know, developers don't build things with an understanding of how it's going to play out for search. And that's what the SEO's job is there to do. That's why, whenever I do meet with clients and things like that, I sort of start really telling them like what SEO is and how it changes, which is why I said, like, right from the get-go, SEO has evolved. So we really need to be able to work with both the front end and the back end developer to really, really ensure that sites are actually visible for search engines. So start with a priority list, do a technical audit, which is kind of like, find literally everything that you can be able to find that, in your search console, in your tools that you're looking at, or even just test the site out as though you're a user. I think a lot of people do forget to just, run through and go to checkout and see what that's like, and say that it's part of the process, because you really want to be able to replicate what the user's experience is on the site. And that will just also just pick up a ton of different things, all the way from just signals that tools can see, to real critical errors that Search Console will be able to report, all the way to usability errors, that maybe UX or just better implementation, all the way through to checkout. So again, just really, really thinking about how a user would use the site, how a search engine would go through the site, and how the site has been built and things that you can be able to do. So really start with that priority list, and communicate with the developers that, hey, we understand that you've got things in your sprints that are really, really important. But these are really, really important for these reasons. And I'm more than happy to sit with you and, to go through this. I pulled out the developer documentation. I can see how this has been set up. But let's have a conversation around that, because this is actually the impact for the client, and you want to meet your KPIs and I want to reach my KPIs, because overarchingly this is the client's KPIs. So let's all work together and solve this.
Love it, love it. Okay, let's talk about priorities. When I check out any website at any tools, I can find a bunch of errors. It's not like one, two errors, many errors. Technical errors. How to choose priorities? Which errors we need to fix or must to fix? Which errors we can ignore? For example, I remember when one of my clients told me it's hard for me to fix all this alt text for pages like about us, contact. I replied to him, don't do it. Why you need to fix alt text for pages where you're not going to get any traffic? Pay attention to other priorities, because you have like 1,000 other pages, important pages. Can you tell about priorities? Because when I see 100 errors, how to choose errors that I must to fix to get this search ranking positions, traffic, and which I can ignore.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really hard one to sort of start going through without a set example. But that
Okay.
being said, I think it's a hard one to answer because I get this question from junior SEOs and people starting out in SEO all the time. It's something that I don't think about as much because of just experience, just going through and knowing what moves the needle. But if I were to give an example, if something is preventing search engines from being able to access a site. So say, for example, you've got server 500 errors, and they're being populated in Search Console. Well, that's a pretty critical error that you really need to address. Because server 500 errors not only prevent people from using the website, but Google has a tendency to index things that exist. And when it sees these errors, it basically says that, hey, for the amount of traffic that is going over this bridge, for example, there isn't the kind of load capacity for people to go across this bridge. So we're going to really, really limit the amount of people that can go across. And of course, when Google is like, doing Google Maps and things like that, is it going to prioritize something on the highway with this bridge, or is it going to pick maybe a stronger bridge for that traffic to go down? So it's probably going to deprioritize your route if we use sort of like a roadmap analogy. So I think that's a really, really good one to look at. I think if your site is also experiencing a lot of 404s, again, it's all around quality. If to whom you need to address the errors, is it at the author? Not really sure about that question. But I think,
By the way, can you clarify this question? No, thanks, Claire. Yeah, it's a great question because I often get this question, and I know probably the answer, but it's like how to find the right web developer who can fix these errors, because I have many clients, and many of them have the same problem. They can't find web developers who can fix these errors, and probably Claire wanna know about that. Yeah, from your experience, where to search for them and how to cooperate with them, find them. Yeah, more about that.
Oh boy. I actually would love to maybe even just tweet out this problem, because here in Australia, I've worked with a lot of developers. I'm just going to sip my coffee here for a moment.
Oh yeah, early morning.
The tea is hot.
Yeah.
I really like developers, and I think that they are able to do things that I'm unable to do, and so I always come into a conversation with a developer with an open mind. That being said, I also have a lot of experience of not having successful interactions with developers, so I'm always really, really careful about approaching someone and not wanting to come across as like, hey, I know how to do your job but better. It needs to be a conducive relationship. So whatever I need to do to really communicate that I'm on their side, I'm here to help them, that I want them to be here, I want them to continue working with this client, but like I'm a really necessary part of the equation now. And I need the client to know that. I need the developer to know that, whether that be in-house or agency. But I really would love to, know also out there, really good development agencies, maybe for more complex tasks. When it comes to server-side rendering, when it comes to doing performance testing and things like that. Just having more names in the,
Yeah.
in the record.
Personally, yeah, personally, I wanna tell, don't search for best prices. Because good web developers, they know their real price. They can estimate their time, so they charge a lot more than mediocre web developers. So if you wanna fix your website, it's better to cooperate with the best, yeah. So I usually tell my clients it's better to create less but quality. If you wanna find someone who promises to fix everything for a cheap price, I'm not sure it's a good idea. Yeah, it's better to check out the ratings, reviews. And I have the question about immigration. For example, if someone wanna change his domain name and or I don't know, or some URLs on website, can you tell how to handle the process? Because I often see when new pages, when these redirects are broken and pages, for example, when you check out manually, it works. 301 redirect, we have it, but after some time, it disappears. I don't know why. Can you tell how to handle the process with immigration?
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah.
And, absolutely. I can sort of, start to really go through it. So I know that this has been recorded, so I'm going to go through this pretty much in depth. So when it comes to a site migration, like I said before, it is one of the most risky things you can do in SEO, because the ramifications, if it's done incorrectly, can be absolutely massive. So right at the get-go, the client really needs to understand that a good technical SEO is an essential part of their team. Now, with a site migration, there are all different kinds of site migrations. Like you're saying, there's changing URLs, merging contents, website redesign, architecture changes, even domain changes, merging HTTP to HTTPS, changing the host, updating the platform, new CMS. There's all kinds of different types of migrations. When it's really important to start right from the basics, which is to communicate to the client what is your goals for not just the migration, because obviously they'll say like retain everything, but what they are for the business. Because depending on this type of migration that you want to do, you really want to be able to sort of see the flexibility in being able to fix at this point overarching maybe UX issues or technical issues that are happening at scale, whether it be, the way that the the pages are built out dynamically at scale, or all kinds of other stuff. So, have a really good idea of what the goals are and what the current live site, their issues are. Now, I want you to really make sure that you map out who the main project lead on the client side is, because that's going to be really important. They're going to be the key driver for the client side. Who their main technical contact is, who the web developer is. That sometimes that is two separate people. Who the content is. So someone who writes a site or will be in charge of actually uploading the content onto the staging site. Their design contact, and anyone else that is going to be a real key stakeholder in making key decisions in this migration. So that's really, really important. And then when you're wanting to communicate to them, say like right from the get-go at the planning stage, before you've even thought about doing a migration, get a technical SEO on board, because planning is, what is that, good planning prevents piss poor performance, something like that. But it's really important here. So, going through, you've understood what the client's goals are, what the business's workflow, who their target audience is, if they have plans to change URLs, if they plan to change any of their titles, meta descriptions, if they want to get rid of or trim content, if they want to add new pages or add new sections, if there's any other technical considerations, are they going to be building this out custom? Is it going to be AWS? Is it going to be React? And when are they planning to launch? Because all of those initial kinds of questions that you ask somebody is really, really starting to go and framework the rest of the project. And I think really important from there on out to take everything with a grain of salt because plans will really start to go off the rails there. So crawl the live site, step one. It doesn't even matter if the migration doesn't even go ahead. If like I always think with what I was saying before about having the URL inspection tool and your Analytics Edge or your SEO tools for Excel, or however you've been able to do that, schedule crawls and capture that those timesheets, those CSVs in time where you're saying like, okay, before the launch in April 2020, we actually have a list of every single URL because you don't know if that's going to come in handy. With some of my cases, absolutely. It's like the client is like, I want every single CSV because we've lost everything. And, thank God you did this right at the get-go. So crawl, save. You start to do some really good bounce, some set things that you need to be able to just make sure that your search console is set up. I like to make sure that all 4 variations as well as DNS are set up, just because you can be able to see historic things, be able to populate, and if there's anything old disavowalments in there or whatever, if they might have had HTTP or the non-secure version running live or the non-WW to their WW running live in conjunction with each other, it can really show you immediately, we actually forgot to change that. We forgot to redirect, we forgot to change that in the DNS. And they've been running live for this amount of time. And this is actually all the data that says how much, what it's been, picked up by Google, and what it sort of sees about that, because it's a really, really important time to be able to do that. And historical context is so important. Make sure that the right sitemaps are in GSC. Set up your analytics, or if it hasn't been set up, my gosh, good luck. But set up GA4, configure those tags in GTM. Make sure that it's all verified and all those other things. Sorry, I'm going very, very, very detailed here, but I'm very passionate about this topic.
I love it.
I just don't want people to do it incorrectly. Yep.
If I understand, we need to make a technical audit before immigration, after immigration, and I think we can do it during immigration. 3 times. And I think it's better to check out manually. I found that we don't need to rely 100% on tools. Sometimes we need to check out manually pages, because after migration, some pages can have technical errors that tools can't see. So it's better to provide some bug testing. And and by the way, we have some tools on WordPress that can check out if your redirects are working well. So just add this tools, plugins, and you can analyze if everything is fine. Because from my experience, I don't remember exactly, but I think like you can't lose something after immigration. 10%, even the best immigration can add new errors. I don't know why. So just our goal is to minimize technical errors with this migration. Okay, I have the question about learning. I have some people who wanna be an expert like you in the future. Can you tell what to learn? Because SEO is a quickly changing world. New things are coming. For example, I have no time to consume 80% of all new content ideas. For example, when I check out blog posts, 100 new blog posts are coming every single day. If I have like 48 hours a day, I can cover like 5%. but I have only 24 hours a day and I need to sleep for 4 hours, 20 hours I can work, but sometimes it's hard, yeah, because I have some other things to do. So share your way of learning, and to cover like most new ideas.
Well, I think it's really important to know that it is impossible for any one person to know everything, and especially in a consistently changing world of SEO,
Yeah.
which I think is the most wonderful thing ever. That consistent learning and consistent building of your understanding is always going to be a part of your essential toolbox to being a good SEO. As far as like learning and things like that. I didn't go to university for marketing or business. Like my degree is in engineering. It is completely separate, and I haven't really used it other than just a couple of fun things in Excel, or just like one time I got to make like distribution maps, like with looking at page speed at scale, and even then, like it was kind of like that's not really doing any math. But at the same time, I think it will be really of good comfort for a lot of people to know that it isn't with a huge paywall. I think it's important to have your own site as well, and just play around with it. Start to build on it. I think a really, really great teacher is actually just approaching it in the most like wide-eyed, kind of like with the kid at heart in mind of like, let's not build something, let's build something to rank it and to see it and to test it, and to see what it does. And I've got a lot of really crappy websites out there that I've built things on, and whatever. But I think that's great, because that's your testing ground, and that can be able to teach you a lot of things, and make mistakes that you would be really scared to do that on a client's website. But again, I think find your community, and community for me is so essential, because like I said, you can't know everything. And really, really keep caring about the outcome for the client, because I think approaching it from an empathy first perspective, as well as really feeding that hunger and that curiosity. If you really start from those places, then you're going to want to go the extra mile, because you want to do the right thing by the client, not just for today, but for tomorrow. And by really wanting to continually learn and things like that, you'll consistently find, so many, new outer edges of your understanding that you can recognize and then see beyond and know how much more you've got to go. I just want to take this time at the moment just to shout out Bill Slawski, rest in peace. He was that SEO for me, amongst like a couple of other names that really highlighted to me just the rich, vast, wonderful, complex world that is SEO. And it inspired so much creative thinking and exploration and deep diving. And I looked at people like who are really trailblazing within SEO, sharing their expertise, using their time to be able to help people, and just start to really illuminate that for everyone else. So I think finding community is absolutely essential, just as much as it is to really continually to keep building upon that. And Search Engine Journal, I think they've got a list of who to follow, which is really, really helpful. And I'm also lucky enough to make that list, which is really, really sweet and lovely. I think I made my own top 140 people, which is kind of impossible because there's so many different facets to this wonderful craft that we do. But there's some wonderful resources out there, and find your own communities within your own neighborhoods. Like, so SEO Collective is ours here in Melbourne, and it's free. you can rock up. We've got a Slack channel. We just go out and help people. Aleda's got this wonderful Discord channel. Arij has got a wonderful catalog of some really incredible technical SEOs that just happen to be women. So there's so much really, really amazing resources out there. But again, start with empathy, approach it with that curiosity, and continue to feed that, and continue just to really want to do the best for today and tomorrow.
Nice. It's interesting. You mentioned about Bill Slavsky. Yeah, and we scheduled podcast on Friday, and he passed on Thursday. Yeah, so terrible. Yeah, he was great man. We had actually a podcast with him one time, and it's life. We can go ahead. I've learned, I've learned a lot from him, and love it that we have such expert specialists who can lead us in the right direction. Okay, let's talk about the future of SEO. What kind of future can you predict, forecast the future? Because I often get the question, SEO is dying. SEO is dead, or something similar. Do we need to consider SEO? I understand them, because it's hard, really hard. For example, if you type any keyword on Google, Google lists like 1 million results for even long tail keywords, and we need to compete with them. Only the top 10 results get traffic, and that's why I understand people who can give up early before trying to get this position. So I think it depends on your strategy, benchmark, and many other things to do. What kind of future can you predict in SEO? Do we need to pay attention with that because it takes time to get results, or it's better to find other channels? What do you think?
I love, this thing of SEO is dead. It actually reminds me of Nietzsche, where, he sort of runs out and says, God is dead and we have killed him. But the whole premise around that was not that God was actually dead. It was just he understood that society was shifting their core root faith from trusting in an entity, into God, into something like science, and more evidence-based approaches. And I don't mean to be polarizing, just a comment on that. I just think about this when I hear that SEO is dead. SEO is not dead, it's just evolving. And I love this question about, where the future is and where it's going, because, especially with, we just mentioned Bill Slavsky, and me even saying that he was one of those people for me that really highlighted, how much it is out there that I don't know, that I need to continue to go through and to evolve and to really move with these changes, because his whole ethos was not only just there to help people, but to start to really see what is in the future by looking at patents that prolific Google engineers are producing right now for the future. And his incredible mind was able to read these patents and break it down for the everyday person like myself. But in his absence, I think we should really think about the legacy that he stood for and carry it forward. I want to also point to another, two other people that are really phenomenal, that really comes to mind in this area. That's Jason Barnard, the brand surf guy. And I want to also point to Dixon Jones, who wrote an amazing book, Entity SEO. And I'll also throw in Eli Schwartz as well with product-led SEO. So, from different things, like, Eli being like very, very practical and on the ground sort of stuff. Dixon really explaining more of the theoretical, direction of SEO, and Jason Barnard acting in between the two, to really show like, how knowledge graphs and entities work, but from a very like on the ground kind of like, this is my experience and this is, how, I can use myself as almost like a testing ground. So you can kind of go along with his journey and his process of how he discovered, how he changed, and how he did this, which is always really, really great to, have something concrete and meaty to look into. But the future of SEO, is around strings, not things. And again, I've taken that from Dixon's book title blurb. But search engines, how do they even work? And like, how does an SEO, think about this, and how do they approach it? Traditionally, bots, they crawl the internet and find out what all the pages mean and what they should be ranked for search. So if you were looking for washing machine repair, you look at the content on the page, and SEOs would just add as much context around the washing machines as possible and build internal links to blogs and all that kind of other stuff, and just be like, cool, it's crawling everything, so therefore it should understand everything, and then it will just rank me, right? It's evolved much more since that. Since 2014, Google's moved away from Freebase to Wikidata, which is like a massive encyclopedia of topics, entities, and that stores things in a similar way of that topic and all the ideas surrounding it. So now this is really Google's understanding of a central point of truth now. It's not crawling and understanding everything. It's actually got its database of things that it says, this is what the world is, and this is what the world is like. Now, how does everything that you crawl and find around that, how does it relate back to this? So this is really Google's play at bringing the semantic web to its search engine, which they've really strived to build upon and use a bracket of understanding of the web and the way that people find things. Now, why am I bringing this up when I'm talking about the future of search? I think it's really, really important to really take that ethos and start to break it down. And maybe instead of focusing on your keywords, the new goal is to really start to associate your client's brand and the products or the services that it sells, or provides, and the rich content that it could have around that, to be the authority, to really have that in-house expertise and to really earn that trust. And I kind of screwed up the order there, but I'm alluding now to EAT. And EAT is not just your YMYL sites, it's everything. It's absolutely everything. And Google has provided webmaster guidelines, sorry, not webmaster, quality raters guidelines, and that's been leaked, and it's been wonderful to be able to go through and read this 176-page PDF, but it provides examples, and it really gives a lot of detailed ways to be able to qualify what it communicates to all of us, which is quality. So think about it from, okay, we want this client now to be the authority in what they do. Do they have the expertise? Are they providing the best user experience? Is that something that search engines and users would perceive as being trustworthy sources of information and service or products? And then from there on out, how much of this is understood by search engines to be seen as this authority? How much does it understand about this? Is it even associating this with the right entities that they want to be perceived for? And then taking it from there and then using these EAT signals to really start to break this down and qualify this. So in a nutshell, that's really where the future of SEO is going to go. And keywords, they're kind of like the canaries in the mine shaft. They say whether something many iterations after the technical errors have resulted in bots have already seen and kind of been like, this is crap, or the page intent is completely incorrect. They're really the canaries in the mine shaft to say whether of how it is fluctuating on any given day. So they're kind of almost like, I'm going to say it right now, they're vanity metrics. Keywords are vanity. They don't they're good little litmus in the water, but that's pretty much it. They're not an accurate reflection of things, because maybe you've done a lot of work with your EAT, really building up this understanding, but the algorithm update hasn't happened yet, and they haven't been able to crawl and be able to see all that really great work. And you haven't been rewarded yet, and that's okay. because, like I said, right from the get-go, you want to apply things to clients' websites that are not just good for today, but for tomorrow. So if you start thinking about that, you start working towards these things and really starting to, explain this to the client and bring them into the understanding that, hey, if we ride this wave early, this is going to be the best long-term solution for you. We can really make sure that this is, I hate to say this word or phrase, sorry, future-proofing, but this can really start to look at making sure that you're going to be fine for the future as well.
Yeah, love it, love it. And you mentioned Jason Berner. He was on my show, Bill Slavsky. And right now I have the conversation with Nik Ranger. Yeah, I'm so grateful to get such speakers who can share so valuable insights. Oh, yeah. And I have the last question about CMS. Can you tell, for example, I know that many SEOs love WordPress, but for example, I had good speakers who mentioned about other CRM system, and Wix, Spotify. What do you think? For example, if someone wanna start from scratch, how to choose the right CRM? And from I know that all of them have advantages, disadvantages. We need to learn them. But from SEO perspective, what do you think? Which CRM is better today?
Well, CRM's more of like a customer relationship management, but like a CMS. I mean, I feel like what is your business doing? How do you want to be able to scale this business?
Mm-hmm.
I think the only reason why people are sort of maybe looking elsewhere from your traditional WordPresses is just because it's got the largest database of
Mm-hmm.
users, and there's literally millions upon millions of sites, and it's
Mm-hmm.
open source. WordPress was incredibly revolutionary at its time, and it's done a really, really incredible job at maintaining its presence in the market because of it being outsourced. Open sourced.
Mm-hmm.
So that means anyone can go in, be able to create tools, and be able to make sure that they're all there and updated. And with every single new iteration of WordPress, they're really wanting to make sure that there are checks and balances in place. But in saying that, whenever there's the big dog in the field, there's going to be a bunch of spammers and malicious sites and bots and things like that are going to look to take down the big one, because what's going to if you're an ambitious hacker, how do you sort of measure your craft? By maybe how much you're able to hack. I don't know. I'm not a hacker. And I just try and think about what makes sense. So it's never like there are always things you can be able to do to be able to really make sure that security is at the forefront. You make sure things are with an SSL certificate. You can make sure that you've got some really, really good protection tools out there. Using Cloudflare, using ways to be able to protect this. But I think it really depends on what you're wanting to do and how you're wanting to scale and what your budget is at the time. I think you can make tremendous websites that can be all the way up to enterprise and WordPress. I've seen it. I've worked on it. It works. It really depends on how the developer has thought about structuring the information architecture, and about the hosting that is there to really start to make sure that it can scale. So I feel like in that kind of way, it can be a little bit agnostic. That being said, not all CMSs are built equal. There are some CMSs that will always have ceilings, and that's for a range of things. Like maybe you're a marketplace that wants to build out things pretty quickly, but you don't have the kind of budget to go fully headless, fully customized. Maybe with like Magento, and or with a Shopify Plus or something like that. Maybe you might not have that kind of budget, so you'll make concessions and you'll be on maybe like one of those out of the box tools that have limitations what you can do from a technical perspective. Like I never think that those are incorrect, because they might be valid for the time that that they just need to be able to create something and start to scale it. But I always want, as a technical SEO in this conversation, we'll always let the client know where that ceiling is and how far away we are from doing it. I've also seen that there are developers can build out the most fantastic things fully headless on Shopify Plus, and the actual code that they built it out on is basically a Jackson Pollock of absolute garbage and nonsense. And they've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this new platform, and maybe it's completely client side, which for anyone listening is JavaScript is by default client side. And client side means that it has to go through and interact with, it has to go through those iterations, and it might not fully render. So maybe not all of your content will be crawled. Not all the page elements that you'll want to be considered will be crawled. And this can create all kinds of issues at scale. So that has a real major downside. It's got a really poor user experience. And, like Googlebot might not be able to go through with its multiple waves of indexing to actually be able to render everything. And then you have to go through and server-side render it, which is, going through and actually making sure that all this is like rewritten the HTML, and you have to kind of go through that big process. I'm using this as an example because I've got a client that, again, from another migration, has done this, and they built it out. Sorry, that's my alarm. This is usually when I actually wake up. Yeah, really clutching this coffee.
Yeah.
This is the way that they would need to go through and actually fix this now. And it doesn't have enough in the code to be able to pull it out for the HTML and the CSS in its pre-render, and they have to basically rewrite the entire site. So again, I think the core message here is that there are a lot of CMSs out there. I wouldn't say that either one is good or bad. They're just they might be right or they might be incorrect for you at the time, but everything has its limitations. Everything has its ceilings. But really, really make sure that you're paired with a good technical SEO that can really help guide these kinds of decisions. And if it comes to it, you might need to start making business cases to either, rewrite or fix a lot of the legacy issues, or do a migration.
Well explained. Love it. Thanks a lot, Nik. It's a big pleasure to get you on my show, to learn from you, to get all these insights. Tell our audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
Awesome. Well, this is my Twitter handle. It just disappeared. Oh no, that's only because the comment came up. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. I love to chat there. If you want to join the SEO Collective Slack channel, like I can live tweet an invite, after this. It will only be live for 14 days. So, come join the fun there. But otherwise, yeah, you can reach out to me Twitter or on LinkedIn, and it's just my name on LinkedIn. So connect, say hi. If you've got some specific questions or anything like that, you can always just slide into the DMs and ask.
Okay, guys, you need to do it. Follow Nik on social media, on Twitter, LinkedIn, learn more about her valuable insights. Love it, Thanks again, Nik, for all this information that you shared with us today. And guys, you can find all these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and see you next time.
Whoop, whoop. Thanks.